Robinson supporters have broken through, as I say, the cordons. It's causing a massive headache for the police. Essentially, you've got racist thugs trying.
Over the chaos of the Unite the Kingdom march, 8 individuals charged. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to UK Connors, a place where we cut through the noise, lay down the facts, and keep British politics sharp, compelling, and yes, a little bit cheeky. Before we dive straight into the day's stormy tale of protests, politics, and a country at war with itself in the streets of London, let me pause for just a moment and remind you, hit that subscribe button. Join the growing community here at UK Connors, because trust me, you don't want to miss what's coming next. Now, let's get into it. Over the weekend, London once again found itself at the center of chaos, where politics left the debating chambers and spilled onto the streets in a clash of voices, banners, fists, and fury. On one side, we had right-wing firebrand Tommy Robinson drawing an estimated crowd of up to 150,000 under the banner of his Unite the Kingdom event. On the other side, a much smaller counter-demonstration of roughly 5,000 anti-racism campaigners, determined to oppose not just Robinson but the very politics and energy he embodies. The tension was not just expected, it was practically scheduled, and it erupted exactly as anticipated. The result? Violence, arrests, and now formal charges. 8 individuals have been charged following riots that broke out in central London. The Metropolitan Police, stretched to its very limits, labeled the violence wholly unacceptable. And when the Met, an institution itself often under heavy criticism, decides to make such a sharp condemnation, you know the situation was ugly. Before we peel back the layers of this weekend's unrest, let's pause again. If you're watching this and you want sharp political storytelling, where we don't tiptoe around the fact but present them with the seriousness they deserve and just the right pinch of British sass, subscribe now. Go on, hit it. You'll thank me later. Now, the numbers tell their own story. Between 110,000 and 150,000 people gathered for Robinson's event. That is not just a demonstration. It's a scale of a small city being dropped into the middle of London for a day of political theatre. Compare that to the 5,000 counter-protests, or brave, defiant, but visibly outnumbered. And in those numbers lies a crucial point about today's Britain. Whose voices are swelling? Whose anger is boiling over? And who is willing to take the fight from hashtags and headlines into the pavements of Westminster? The Met originally reported 25 arrests, later revising the number down to 24. It doesn't sound like much when set against 150,000 demonstrators. But let's be real, you don't measure riots only in arrests. You measure them in images splashed across newspapers, in clips that go viral online, in the growing sense that politics has moved away from the institutions and found a home in the fists of the furious. And yes, 8 of those people now face serious charges: assault, public order offenses, and the prospect of courtrooms rather than marches in their near future. Here's the kicker. The Met also released images of 11 individuals they are still trying to identify. The implication? The chaos is far from over. This is only the beginning of a rolling cycle of investigations, prosecutions, and let's be honest, political exploitation by both sides. Because every arrest is not just a legal event. It's a political weapon, ready to be wielded on Twitter, in Parliament, and yes, across the pubs and dinner tables of the United Kingdom. If you're nodding along so far, thinking, yes, this is the analysis I've been craving, then don't forget. Subscribe. Hit that button so you don't miss the next breakdown when the political stage shifts again. Now let's talk about the sheer scale of policing that was deployed. 1,000 Met officers on the ground. That alone is hefty, but it wasn't enough. Another 500 had to be drafted in from other forces across the country: Leicestershire, Nottinghamshire, Devon, Cornwall. Imagine the logistical headache. That's not just an operation. That's a national security mobilization for a single day in central London. And it speaks volumes about where Britain finds itself right now. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. When politics collapses into confrontation, it's the police who hold the line. And no matter where you sit on the political spectrum, there's no denying that our streets are looking more like political battlegrounds than civic spaces. And let's be honest, it doesn't take much imagination to see the chilling parallels to other countries where mass protests and street battles replace meaningful debate in Parliament. Of those arrested, 1 person walked away with just a warning. 11 others were released on bail, investigations pending. The rest? A mix of men and women, though the majority were men, which won't surprise anyone who has ever seen the gender breakdown of a street brawl. But it does beg the question, what draws ordinary, everyday people into a moment of violence at a political protest? Is it ideology? Is it mob mentality? Or is it simply the irresistible pull of a spectacle, where politics feels less like discussion and more like war? And here's the sting, because this is not just about Saturday. It's not just about 8 people facing charges. It's about the story Britain is telling itself right now. Robinson's ability to pull a 6-figure crowd is significant. You may detest him, you may despise everything he stands for, but you cannot ignore the scale of his influence. And in politics, ignoring your opponent is the surest way to lose. Meanwhile, the counter-protest, smaller, yes, but not insignificant, reminds us that this country is not marching in lockstep to Robinson's tune. There is resistance, there is defiance, and it is fierce even if it is fewer in number. But numbers, dear viewers, are not the only currency here. Symbolism matters. Optics matter. And when the world looks at Britain and sees massive far-right rallies colliding with anti-racist resistance, the narrative writes itself: a nation divided, not united, a kingdom on edge. And while we're here dissecting the politics and psychology of protests, let me remind you this is exactly why you should be subscribed to UK Connors. Because this is not about taking sides. This is about cutting through the spectacle, laying bare the mechanics of power, anger, and influence. So subscribe now, because what we're unpacking today is just the beginning of a much larger storm. Now, let's not kid ourselves. Some of you will say, this is free speech in action, democracy alive and well, people exercising their right to protest. And yes, that's true to a point. But when speeches turn into smashed windows, when placards turn into projectiles, when voices turn into fists, that is not democracy. That is disorder, and the state has to respond. Which is exactly why 8 people now face charges. But ask yourself this: will those charges deter future violence? Or will they fuel it? Because let's be honest, the myth of the political martyr is a powerful one. For Robinson supporters, every arrest is proof of establishment suppression. For his opponents, every charge is justice served. And so the cycle continues, spinning faster, louder, more dangerous with each turn. Let's not forget the financial cost. Deploying 1,500 police officers is not cheap. Taxpayers foot that bill. You foot that bill. And in a country where public services are stretched to breaking, where councils are declaring bankruptcy, where the NHS is under constant strain, how many more weekends like this can Britain afford before the cracks become chasms? And yet here's a bitter irony: the bigger the protests, the bigger the police bill, the bigger the media spotlight, the bigger the platform for those at the heart of it. Robinson knows this. His supporters know this. His critics know this. And still, the cycle turns. So what does all this mean for the future of British politics? Because this weekend's violence was not a one-off. It was not a freak incident. It was a symptom of a deeper illness: polarization, alienation, and a growing conviction that shouting on the streets achieves more than speaking in Parliament. And that should worry every single one of us. Now, before I wrap this up, let me pause once more and say, if you're watching this and you want to keep tracking these seismic shifts in our politics, you know what to do. Subscribe. Stay connected. Because UK Connors is where you'll get the clarity, the sharpness, and yes, the sass that makes sense of the storm. To bring this home, 8 people charged, 11 suspects still being hunted, 1,500 police drafted in, hundreds of thousands in the streets. London, once again, transformed into a stage for anger, identity, and politics at its rawest. And beneath it all, the question of what kind of country the United Kingdom is becoming. Will it be a kingdom truly united? Or will it continue to fracture, splinter, and tear itself apart in public, one protest at a time? That is a story we'll keep watching. And that is why you should be right here with us as it unfolds. So, if you haven't already, subscribed now. Join the conversation. Because trust me, the next act in Britain's political drama is never far away. And when it arrives, UK Connors will be here to break it down. Until then, stay sharp, stay curious, and as always, see you in the next one.